Okay, broskies, welcome to the ultimate BT3 guide, which will actually take our experience and hard work we put on this game and compile it into a distinct and easily digestible guide to prepare you for Sparking Zero and to actually become the gods that you deserve.
Now, for your pleasure, we have decided to split the game into 5 segments. First, we'll start with the movement, so you get to know how to move around the stage efficiently. Then we'll go to offense, so you know how to kick some butt. Then we'll go to defense, so you don't get your butt kicked. Then we have key, which is that's a key move, so you know how to manage it efficiently. Then we have our last segment is skills, some special skills. We'll break down all the different skills and explain it to you.
And at the end of the video, we have simply a bonus segment, which is called the extras segment, which will pretty much tie it all up together, add some tips about gameplay like world tournaments, death matches, and of course, how to actually pull this all together and learn and train. So, now that we have all of that in place, before we start, you may be wondering, who the fuck are those two magnificent broskies over here, and why do they have a Shrek behind them? Ignore him. Anyway, if you want to see how we play and what we are about to teach you, you can check a brief segment of a gameplay of ours right here, or you can simply skip to this timestamp to start the guide immediately.
Almost! It's so fast! Whoa!
Come on, I tried to go up with you, but once again,
Yeah, so
too slow.
So I had a window, so
Yes, too slow, too slow. And in this fight, you can be that slow. Okay, so basically, I have no clue.
Oh my god, that's not good for my shoulder! Oh, I thought I would do it again. You scared me, Kakarot! Yes! 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 Come on!
No.
Ooh, fuck! Oh, you escaped! No! Yes! Nice. Got him! Got him! Jerk! Yes! I mean, no! And throw him! Yes! Fuck! Yes! Yes!
Ah! The first element of movement is of course the close range one. As you see, come away from the border because it messes up some interactions. So, as you can see, now that I'm moving around my opponent, see how Goku moves around. He's not very fast, he's practically very slow, but when I get close to him, I get even slower. And you see how he changes his mannerisms as he walks around his friend Vegeta. So, when you're close to your opponent, basically this type of moving around your opponent, you could be using it very much. Your opponent can very easily land some punches on you if he tries to. You will never actually be able to escape a punch. The predominant way to move around close to your opponent is by using the X button. And that's what you do a step in. So if you're away from your opponent, you do a step in and you get close to him. Or you can move right, right, left, left, back. So if your opponent charges a punch, for example, then you very easily can dodge it, get close to him, and start comboing him. When you're far away from your opponent, as I explained before, you have your normal speed, your normal way of movement. This is also pretty useless, and the only way you will ever use it is if you want to gauge a situation, to not commit to any direction, to any action. You simply stand around, throw a kill dance at your opponent, or if you have some terrain you want to hide behind and you want that sweet precision to get behind the boulder so your opponent can't disrupt your, for example, charging of ki with simple ki blasts, you simply, and you have the boulder, let's imagine that you have a boulder at the right, you simply go right, hide behind the boulder, start charging your ki, and your opponent can't hit you with his ki blasts.
So either to hide if you have something near to hide to, or just like think about just a poker face, just to await what your opponent will do.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, now to move a little bit faster, just as you are pressing the direction buttons, you can just press X and you'll go just a bit faster. Now you can use all the directions, just as previously mentioned. And to lock in to your target, you have to press forward and X. And now if my target moves, I will follow. You can also move with X, just pressing X, but you will go to a straight line, so keep that in mind. The nice thing about this movement is it's not too slow, it's not too fast, but it does not expend ki. You can also combo it with some attacks, like that. You can start your combo, or you can use ki blast, like that. Now just a little tip, you have to press the punch or the ki blast button before you move into the close range, otherwise you won't connect them.
Yes, let's call it the fighting range. This range where the normal movement becomes a slow movement, let's call it the fighting range.
Okay, yeah. Now, if you want to move to the Z axis, all you have to do is press R1 to go up or R2 to go down. You can also tap it to jump. Now that's a fun little trick. You won't really use it, it's not very effective at anything. But just keep it in mind in case you need to maybe jump from a hill or something. How you use it effectively is to basically reposition to see your opponent better or attack better. Like if I'm up and my opponent's straight down, I won't be able to view where he is, but if I go down, now it's so much easier. Now the same applies to supers, like you have to be in the correct position. If I am very high and try to do a blast, it won't work, so I have to go just a little bit down where I can see him, and now I can blast him away.
Yes, and to simply clarify, if your opponent is above you, like way above you, it's better to go with front with X, simply to have a better way to initiate, but definitely for supers, it's a lot easier to simply go down a little bit, throw your super.
It's faster and safer if you want to be aggressive with ki blasts.
Yes, it needs a lot more precision to catch your opponent with an ascent or descent.
Yeah, but otherwise if you want to reach your opponent, yeah, what my purple said is a lot better.
Yes.
And of course you can also chain it with some punches or some keys. So what you do is press R1 and then square to do that anything, and then you also have this blast barrage.
As we told you before, you can use the normal dash to move around, and it's pretty useful because it expends no ki, and it actually lets you reposition quite quickly. But if you want to go even faster, this is where we use our L2 button where we charge ki, direction and X, and we initiate what's called the Dragon Dash. As you can see, the Dragon Dash is faster, but it also expends ki. Notice how I'm simply holding L2 and it has kept my direction where it wants to go. So, the way you use this move is to simply move very fast around the map. How you can move around is with the directions. You can go forward, backwards, left, right, or you can even go at an angle if you so much please. Or, if you want, you can simply lock to your opponent pressing L2 and X, and you will simply follow them. As an important note, if your opponent flies away and you press L2 and X and they fly, you can even put your direction so you can do some swirls around that will help you to dodge a gully gun, from example, in your face. If I throw at my opponent and he throws a gully gun, I can move right while also going over to him, and as you see, you will dodge it. Another way you can use this move, and that's a little bit more advanced, is that you can use it to apply pressure. For example, of course, if you go to your opponent straight up, he can expect it, he will block it, attack you, or even super you in the face. But what you can do is add a little bit of uncertainty to your movement. So, if I fly to my opponent and then I go right, I go back, I go straight up to him, left, right, or even circle him, now my opponent never knows where I will actually go for the kill. Fly away again, go for the kill, fly away outside, go up to him, back, and pretty much keep him guessing. That's a very neat way you can use it when you actually master the movement. But for beginners, and that's important I noted, if you're a beginner, simply for now, as you're learning the game and you're practicing, focus on L2 and X. This will get the job done, you will go to your opponent, and you will start comboing them. An important distinction, by the way, is that while in dash you can use your ki blasts as you're flying, when you're actually dragon dashing, you can't use ki blasts. The only way you can do, the only way that you can use is a normal punch, a normal attack to initiate your combo or your attacking phase. Another important aspect is that if you are flying with your dragon dash at any direction, your opponent, if he decides to chase you, will always be faster than you. So as you can see, my opponent can very easily catch up to me. So that's something you also want to note. Another thing is that if we two fly at each other with a dragon dash, we'll initiate a clash, okay, where you pretty much master your button and whoever masters the most wins. But if I use directional dragon dash and he flies directly at me, then we will not clash. And that's also important because when you're, for example, you are dragon dashing at someone and he uses a super that dashes, you will initiate a clash. But if you are dashing towards your opponent without having locked in with L2X, and your opponent actually decides to use a super that is basically a dash, then the super will hit and you will get not comboed, but you will get dealt all the damage in your face. Something to be wary about. So, that's nice and all, you can fly to your opponent like that, it's actually pretty fast and pretty enjoyable. But an even faster way to do that is that if your opponent is far away, you can start your dragon dash and then you press X another time, check my keyboard one more, you press X and you simply do the dragon homing, where you pretty much go even faster and go around your opponent. This move is pretty useful because you can get behind your opponent, press square, for some reason he didn't attack, let's do it again, press square and you stun your opponent. Or you can even press triangle and you initiate a combo like that. So it's pretty useful. Just to note, I will throw it in here because I don't know if I will have time to explain it in Offence. You can even go around and simply do nothing or initiate a throw, just to throw him off guard. Just because you do dragon homing, you don't have to always press square or triangle.
You can also land with guard.
Yes, I mean, you can also land with a guard immediately. A golden bro already explained to you ascend and descend. The dragon ascend descend is pretty much you double press the button either of ascend and descend and you move faster up or down. This can be very useful in maps that have a very big clearance towards the z-axis. For example, this map is kind of tall, so if I want to get to the ground as quickly as possible, then I can get down like that.
You can also chain with the other movement, like do that and then want to go down.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you can start going up and then you can initiate the dragon dash like that. Mm-hmm. So that's also a neat way you can move around the map. For example, especially in the lookout, for example, where it has a lot of clearance to the upside or to the downside and your opponent can be at the other side of the map 200 meters up in the air. If you want to get close to them, you can start by going up, then do dragon homing, and as we explained, you can chain them and you can move around like a madman. Note that every time you're flying and you see your aura around you, you pretty much do any type of dragon dash, you expend ki.
Now there's another way to move, and that's the fastest way, which is if you are in max power mode. And to go into max power mode, all you have to do is have your yellow meter full, and then you simply charge even more. You go into the blue bars, and once you fill them, you're in max power mode. Now, once you're in max power mode, most characters, but not all, can move by pressing the circle button. So if you do that, you teleport very, very quickly and very, very fast. But it also expends a lot of ki. So let me charge a little bit more. Alright, now, so this is obviously useful to suddenly go up to your opponent and to also dodge any incoming attacks very, very easily. And if my opponent also charges to his max power, and we both try to go straight to each other, this will trigger a minigame, which you have to press the correct button at the correct time.
There was a flying here. Oh, and side note, it also triggers with a Dragon Dash. For example, if I come to you and you teleport to me.
But it triggers the other minigame.
Yes. Now we're actually at the fun part. I mean, I love movement and the way you can do it, but what's movement without some punches up to your opponent's face?
I mean, you're playing Dragon Ball.
I mean, yes. So, let's start pretty simple with a full combo. And the simplest combo of them all is to simply press square like that. So, the simplest combo of them all is if you press square like a madman, you do a 9 combo hit. But now that's where the step-in comes in, because if I start doing a combo and I hit him away and do press X, I can even do a bigger combo and throw him away like that. Of course, you won't be throwing him away and give your opponent space like that, but as a bro tip, if you actually do that combo and you throw your opponent like that, he will get up, and as he gets up, you Kamehameha their face. A simple bro tip. Anyway, now, let's show, however, how you can mix up your combos and actually catch your opponent off guard. So, when I press square, I can always follow it up with a triangle. So, for example, Goku with one square and then triangle does the famous gut punch, which is also really badass. 2 squares and triangle does a ki count. 3 squares and triangle, fly kick. You get the point. Each character has a different move set of how it does that. Some characters have one move 2 times because that game came out at 2007, but other than that, pretty much that's how the character's kit revolves around.
Keep in mind there are always 4 spots, like 4 different triangles.
Usually, 90% of the time, yes. But the way you can do that is that you can actually chain them. For example, we can start with a gut punch, do some flying kicks, and then, for example, there I did 4 squares, but Goku did that. Anyway, we can do that, ki cannon, start combo hit, and you get the point. But what I want you to remember from this stage is that as you get used to it, you remember that you can actually do some triangles. Just don't do the same triangle twice, because then, if you do that, let's say we're doing a gut punch and then a gut punch again, you will throw your opponent away and you pretty much stop the combo right there. Another thing is that, of course, we have triangles, but at any stage of the combo, you can also do a directional triangle, either up or down, which initiates another move and gives the combo some more depth. So, because the game has directional blocking, which we'll explain later. But anyway, if you hit your opponent do down triangle, you do another sweep and he gets down. Or if you press up and triangle, you throw him away, press X, go up to him, and you pretty much do this type of combo.
The directional triangles are common for everyone.
Yes, they're the same. See, but remember, at the up triangle, when you throw your opponent, you have to press X and then combo it at the exact stage where you're at the same height with your opponent. Because if, for example, I throw my opponent, press X and immediately press, okay, here I did that, but for some characters won't do it. You have to be mindful of the timing, as with everything in this game. Now, also square, as a move, can be charged. For example, a simple punch is like that, but you can also charge your punch and throw your opponent away. Let's give you an example of how a fully charged punch is like. As you can see, you throw your opponent pretty far. Instead of the full charge, you can also do a small charge, which throws your opponent like that, or a mini charge, which simply disrupts your opponent. Okay, so sometimes in the middle of the combo, you can do a small charge, give him a kick in the face, and as he's trying to recover, start a combo. And with that, let's show you the charge square combo, which pretty much starts with a full charge attack, press X to follow, another square, triangle then, and I didn't manage to finish it with a circle because you were in the ground, so let's do that one more time. You can always choose the direction of the triangle and the square. I mean, I can throw him up, forward then up, left triangle, and then circle to finish the combo. And where the battle gets actually pretty interesting is that you have some other weapons at your disposal, or better put, tools. So, if your opponent is guarding and you are trying to hit him, of course your punches won't penetrate. But you can throw him. And that's a way where if your opponent relies too much on his guard, you can actually catch him off guard, throw him, and then with some simple stuff, catch him and start comboing him. You also have the parry, so when you're hitting your opponent, you can always stop and give him the opportunity to hit you. But if he hits you while you are, after pressing a square, press circle, if he hits you, he will get one specified triangle movement from your character, because every character does something different. For example, if Vegeta starts hits me and then does a parry and I try to hit him, he will throw me away like that. So that's something to be mindful. And those kinds of parries where they throw away usually are parried with a triangle to finish it off. Also, something that you can use is that if I do an undersweep and I catch my opponent, or I have to be at his legs, I can do an upward throw to throw him far away and to get him up in the air. And then you can even follow him or throw your super and deal some damage. So, for advanced offense, let's start with a chain combo with triangles to simply demonstrate how you can actually do something like that. So, we can start with a gut punch. No, let's start with a full combo. So, usually you want to start with a rectangle, throw your opponent away, then start doing your triangles. You can do an undersweep, up triangle, square, triangle, and you throw your opponent like that. Another thing that you can do is basically with every triangle you make, let's say with gut punch, you can press triangle again and you initiate this type of combos where you throw your opponent away. Or if you want to extend it, you can do square, triangle, 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 square, 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 and finish off with some ki blasts. So these are some more advanced combos. They are all at the skill list of the game, which will explain to you later how you can actually start learning it. Don't be intimidated by it. It may seem very big and very hard to learn, but it's actually a lot easier than you think.
It does need some time to get used to all this stuff.
And I mean, when you start learning some cool combos and how to chain them, you will see that the game rewards you.
It will feel amazing, trust us.
It's a beautiful game, and sparking will be even more beautiful. In this game, when you are, for example, when you have your opponent staring at you, when you are face to face, he can block, okay? And if you start hitting him, of course the combo doesn't work. So, but if you are behind your opponent and he starts blocking, from now, I can start hitting him without actually having any fear of my opponent blocking my attacks. For example, a very common combo your opponent can block is this one. This combo, he will always block it if your opponent anticipates it. With a strong opponent will always anticipate it. But if I do it from behind, he can't block it.
I can guard there.
I mean, it would be pretty great if Vegeta, for example, did something like that. It would be kind of cool, but that's the game. So, you're always going to get behind your opponent. And some ways you can do that is, for example, one thing I like to do is, let's get up into the air to show how I like to use it. Whoa, he went very hard. Vegeta is always at 100%.
I commit to everything I do.
Yes. So, a nice combo that you can do is, when you hit your opponent, you can press, after a punch, you can press square and then direction, and you simply teleport. So, how you can use that in the middle of a fight, just be wary. If you teleport and your opponent counter teleports, if he gets the timing right, he will teleport behind you. So be wary when you use that. but you can actually use it when after a gut punch, do another punch, get behind your opponent. This usually works, and this is how you teleport around your opponent. And that's one way you can get behind him. Another way, as we showed, is when your opponent charges an attack, you can move behind, and this is how he has exposed his back. Another way you can get behind your opponent is by flying like a maniac and doing like that, or an easier way, simply do dragon homing, and you will get behind your opponent when he is facing towards you. Basically, as you play the game, always be wary to find ways to get behind your opponent. Another way sometimes is if your opponent is down, like laying on the ground, you can fly, stay on the ground, my golden beautiful boy, you can fly forward and then fly to your opponent and you will get to his back. That's another way you can do that. Oh, and before I move on, another way is that you can fly around your opponent, so as you are flying like that, when you get behind his back, then you can actually go in for the kill. Some combos require you have some time to do an attack, and for example with Ki Cannon, you can press square and you do this combo. But if you press every attack at the exact same time, even your charged attacks, if you do them always full or always immediately, your opponent will start to adapt and it will be very easy for him to counter them. So it's important to be mindful of your timings, and a pretty good example is if I do Ki Cannon again, I can ever so slightly change the timings and force my opponent not to predict but to react, making it harder for him to dodge my combo. And now we get to the fun part before we move on to the last section of the offense, and that's pretty much incomplete combos. For example, a combo I showed you before is you can get your opponent up with up triangle, do this combo and throw him on the ground. But your opponent can expect that and can do some defensive tricks, like for example Z counter, dodge, whatever. What you can do, however, is you can throw him up, go up, do your triangle and then throw him, get behind him and start comboing him like that, for example. So change up your combos. You don't always have to follow through with a combo every time. It's actually useful to sometimes cut a combo short to simply make your opponent not get into a rhythm of defending. And that was simply an example. Another way you can do that is with Ki Cannon. Oh, wrong move. Ki Cannon, bam, bam, and I let my opponent fly as he tries to do, as he's falling, because yes, I sacrifice 2 or 3 punches more, but I give myself another opportunity to approach my opponent in a way he didn't expect that. For example, as he expects me to attack and to continue the combo and he's ready to react, then I can do a super. A super that's dashing towards my opponent, a Kamehameha. I can even, as I'm throwing my opponent like that, I can even follow it up like this and catch him as he's falling and start a new combo. Those are ways you can mix up your combos, keep your opponent on his toes, and never give him the opportunity to predict you.
Or you could also use it to get some distance if you need it. I
mean, yes, if you are at a very disadvantageous stage, let's say I have less health than my opponent has full ki, I have 1 ki bar and I want to get away from him to get him to, if he wants to attack me, initiate the attack, or if he wants to stay away from me, give me the opening to charge my ki and get on a better position, you can do it like that also. Of course you have charge square or mildly charge square, but if you manage to find the exact transition between the weak charge and the strong charge, you can do what we call the super charge square, which pretty much looks something like that. Something like that. It's really hard to hit. It's even harder for us because we have some textures added in the game which prevent the characters from flashing up. In BT3 or BT4 without the mess up of textures that we've done, your character will light up when he's charging his punch, and at the first light up of the character, that's where you release the button and your character will do this move. So it's a little bit easier and a lot easier to practice.
Yeah, sparking will probably follow the same rules. So
Yes.
if you really want to practice it, jump to BT3.
Yes, exactly.
Now, on top of all these neat combos, you also have some more while you are in max power mode. So, if I charge some key.
Like the game didn't have enough combos already.
Yeah, right? But now you can do this very cool thing. You can spam punches. But at some point, the opponent will have a window to press the guard button and actually start guarding your punches.
Yes, you simply press it and hold it, and at some point your character will
Automatically find the window and do it.
Yes.
Alright, now, when you're in max power, you can combo all the triangles combo we mentioned. Now they have, you usually trade the last button with an extra triangle, and he does a little super. And while I was explaining that, my max power went off, so let me charge. And you can basically do something like that. Now this usually stops as you punch your opponent down, but now I pressed triangle and I did my super. Now we have one more unique combo while in the max power state, which is the full charge attack combo. So if you do a full charge attack, then you go X, then you go again X, a triangle, another triangle, and if you do another triangle, you do another super. And notice how my max power still hasn't went out, so I could actually combo to my ultimate. Payback for all those life bars.
As you pretty much seen, also at the start of the video, Goku has the pretty neat ability of throwing a Kamehameha at his opponent's face. Another super, that's usually the beam type of supers. There are some types of supers. For example, Vegeta at some of his forms, he has big back attack with, you know the move. It's a sphere that moves in space. So the difference from these moves is pretty much that if I throw a Kamehameha, I miss my opponent initially, but then the opponent gets inside the beam, he will still get hit by Kamehameha. With big bang attack, if you fail the attack, you missed your shot. There are some other ways. Some people throw two spheres, two ki blasts, for example, to your opponent. A notable example of that is Android 17 or Barter. Some other characters, by the way, throw a lot of ki blasts the usual way. And as you saw that, the super I did, the meteor blast, is a dash movement. And just to demonstrate how it works, you do your dash. You can, if it's a lock dash, you can move around like that, so you can dodge an incoming Gali gun, for example, in your face and still hit your opponent. Some other characters only go in a straight line, so if your opponent responds to that with a super of their own, they will probably hit you in the face, and you have also expended ki, which wouldn't be a very wise decision. And yeah, characters have different distances, different speeds that they move around the map with their dash supers, and that's the whole variety. As you play the game, you will learn the type of supers there are, so we won't spend too much time on this. I just want to note that there are also the ultimate attacks, which deal the most amount of damage. For example, Goku, of course, has the very notable Spirit Bomb that you throw at your opponent, and Vegeta, for example, has a very rare ultimate. Please show to them, Golden Boy.
With pleasure.
Which he pretty much initiates, he teleports in front of you, and it's unblockable. I'm pressing circle, and still I can't block it. So that's something for you to note.
Also, another unique move is the explosive waves, but like in a super format.
Yes, of course, do an explosive wave for people to see. He does an explosive wave. If I throw a Kamehameha at him like that, it blocks it. You won't use it like that usually, but it's useful to know.
Yeah, you usually try to lure your opponent to come to you and then do the move.
Yes, for example, if I do Dragon Homing, which commits me into my opponent, and my opponent does a super explosive wave, I have no shot of dodging it. Instead, maybe if I was a pro that can actually do 7 consecutive dodges without having a clear indication of where the hitbox is.
Technically it's dodgeable, but don't try for your sanity.
Yes, guys, you won't dodge it, okay? Another thing that you can do with your ki and all that stuff is, of course, you can throw normal ki blasts, which can help disrupt your opponent. You can either charge it and throw a key blast that has the knockback effect. You can also, as Golden Bro showed you earlier, you can press R1 and throw some key blasts, but with Goku and some characters, it changes the way either they throw the key blast or the key blast itself. For example, Goku with a hold up triangle throws a sphere key blast, but if you press R1 and triangle, he throws a distractor disc, which is unblockable, by the way.
I didn't block, but...
He didn't block, but it's unblockable.
Basically, this move and sword key blasts are unblockable.
Yes, for example, Yajirobe will be breaking your guard with his sword.
Or Trunks.
Yes. A simple tip that can catch many opponents off guard and can help you win fights pretty easily is that you can throw some key blasts to your opponent, as either try to deflect or even attack them, they get hit. Okay, that works best in medium range or with characters like Vegeta that have more key blasts that can either, for example, if I turn my back and Vegeta starts hitting me with his key blasts and then throws El Super.
I have only 2 key blasts here, but
okay,
yeah.
Some forms of Vegeta have more. Anyway, you can catch your opponent as he's getting hit or blocks your key blasts and hit him with your super. A little bro tip.
Now we'll move up to defense, and to defend yourself from getting your little nice butt kicked. The first thing you have to learn is to press circle. So you guard. Now I'm guarding. Now, while pressing circle, you can also use directions down and up to guard respective attacks from below or above. For example, that wasn't coming from above.
Just the normal guard above. To show that the normal guard.
Right, if I use my normal guard here, it breaks my guard. So you have to be careful of that, because when your guard breaks, you also lose ki. And if you lose ki, well, you don't have any more left.
Your character will basically get tired, something like paralyzed, and you will have to mass to recover your ki.
You will be stunned for a bit, so be careful of that.
Yes, and some characters lose like 3 ki bars. You also lose transformations.
That's insane. Yeah, right.
And that's the time for your opponent to simply charge his ki, throw you some infinite combos.
And do some major
yes,
damage.
You never want to have your guard broken with less than a ki bar.
Alright, now, while you are guarding, if you successfully guard at least one attack, you can press triangle and you do this little Sonic Tray thing, which basically throws your opponent away.
And drains your ki.
And drains the ki, very, very important. This is basically guarding against punch. Now, if you want to guard against ki blasts, well, you can hold your guard. Some damage, but not too much. It will block most of it. But what you can do to be more efficient is to swipe them away. So basically, as you hold your guard button, you press right or left, and he will throw them away. Now, you can also reflect the ki blast back to your opponent, and that's only with charged ki blast, and you have to press the guard button just before it hits you. It has a little window, you don't have to be very hard on your time there, but keep it in mind.
And you can also deflect the charge up to ki blast like right or left.
Right, you could also do that. Except if it's like, as we said, the unblockables ki blast. If you get your back kicked to death, there's one thing you can do to escape, and that's to press double L1, and it does that. It costs you a lot of HP, but it gives you the opening to free yourself. And you could also chain it with a super.
Especially in the World Tournament stage.
Yeah, that's very, very important, as to control where you land and not get a ring out. And now, if you do find an opening though, the best way to live is by going backwards with the movement as we teach you. So if my opponent, for example, tries to charge a punch, I can do that, or even faster, I could do the Dragon Dash and do that. Now, the safest option is always to go backwards. Left and right directions are a bit buggy, so keep that in mind. So now for some more intermediate tips to up your guard game. One thing you have to remember is that your health actually plays a role in how much time you have how quickly you can recover by massing, or the window to vanish incoming attacks. Now, what do we mean by this is, for example, let's start with the vanish. Okay, so you can vanish third squares or triangles. Let's try and do an example. Nope, I didn't vanish that one. So remember, the window is just before you get hit. You have to press square and not square, sorry, circle, always circle, and direction if you want to move to a specific direction. Now the same thing applies to supers. So if you have a key blast coming in front of you, got it. So the same thing applies here. Just before it hits you, you have to vanish with the circle button.
Something I remember that we haven't noted in our magnificent notes is that if you want to dodge a super that's a dash, you have to press up and circle before you get hit, and you will do something like a Z counter. You will teleport behind your opponent and you will send them up.
Right, very important
yes.
Tip here. Now remember how we use vanish button to actually move around our opponent. You can use that defensively. So if, for example, I have the window, let's say my opponent starts an attack and I have this little window there, I can quickly do some punches and then press the vanish button to move away. Like that. Very simple, but very, very useful.
Especially in barter.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, right, because you can't actually do it with slow characters like Broly, for example. He will take ages to actually deliver the punches and be able to vanish.
Barter basically doesn't have to use a circle to dodge any attack, he simply can. Especially versus slow characters, he has the time to throw a punch and teleport in the middle of the other character's combo.
Right, yeah, he actually does that, insane. Now the other thing we mentioned are recoveries, and to recover what you have to do is mass. So if I get hit by a very strong attack, you see the circle that lights up there, you have to press the circle to recover. Now my purple here has a very good technique which he will explain to be the perfect masser.
Yes, basically what I needed to develop to actually be able to go toe to toe with this massing machine, because I don't know why he can never get the theory down, but when we are actually playing the game, he is the most dangerous masser I will never probably face in the whole universe. So of course, you have the normal massing where you're holding your controller like that and you are pressing the button like that. As you can see from the interface, it's not very fast. Even if I try to go fast, it's not very impressive. So what you want to do is you want to hold the controller with your left hand pretty tightly. You want to also touch your controller with your wrist right here. You also want to point your finger with your nail at the button, and you pretty much want to tap the button as lightly as possible to simply press it, get your finger back, put it back in, and you want at the exact same time you want to vibrate your hand, like when you actually contract your muscles and your hand starts to vibrate. You pretty much learned how to use this feature of the human body to do a little bit more.
Share your energy with me.
I pressed L2 by mistake. To do a little bit more fast massing. It's actually pretty intense. If you're a beginner, I would say warm up or slowly get used to it, because even if we are cold, your shoulder can ache a little bit, or your hand.
Or a lot.
Yes, or a lot. But it's pretty much the best way I have found a way to mass consistently at a pretty good rate to be able to go against the monster at pressing buttons.
What also helps me in this kind of trick is to use your left hand. Just as you can actually utilize the movement because it presses your controller just a little bit down. So with your other hand, you can press it lightly with that feature we explained earlier. You can press it lightly up, so you get just a couple more hits. So
Yes, you pretty much vibrate your controller. So when your hand goes down, your controller goes slightly up, and when your hand goes up, your controller goes slightly down. And if you manage to synchronize that, you will get some more hits in there.
Exactly.
But now back to recoveries.
All right, we have more recoveries to cover. So let's start with, okay, we explained massing. Let's go to, okay, so if I end up to the ground, now to get up, I have some options. Either I press an action button, oops, I got up anyway, yeah, okay. That actually won't happen if your health is below a certain point. Now if you press an action button, he just simply stands up. And I can also use directions. So if I do the right thing, he will do a little swing to the left, to the right. Exactly the same with the left. Now if I press the back button, he will stand on his feet facing my opponent. But if I do the up button, I will actually land on my back. So this is, be mindful of that. This, the up button is basically only useful when you know your opponent is coming with a dragon dash. So you know that he wants to get to your back, so you are able to predict it and stand straight to meet him face to face. Now, you don't have to land on the ground to actually recover. You can recover easier or more efficiently, let's say, if you press a direction button just before you hit the ground. He immediately did a little swirl and got up to his feet.
That's with the down direction.
That's the down direction, correct. And we can do with the up button, and that will do something completely different. He came right back at the opponent, so it's perfect to counter-attack very, very directly, so, you know, cuts your opponent off guard. You can actually do this while trying to recover while massing, so pretty easy. So while massing, what I do, I just hold the up button while massing, and as soon as my character recovered, he immediately started rushing to the opponent.
That's a really great way to catch your opponent completely off guard, completely.
And a very fast one. So remember step-ins? Now we will use them defensively, and basically what that means is that So if you are able to predict your opponent coming at you with a charged attack like that, you can, while you have to press the step-in button, which is the X button, which is for movement, but you have to be able to press it while your opponent reaches the fighting range, remember the close range. You could also use that while if you are getting comboed and your opponent tries to charge the punch, that also works. Or it will be easier if you just go left or right. You can also try to extend the step in by going X and then circle. See, that didn't land. Now this is a little bit tricky, so if you try it and get hit, don't get discouraged. It needs a little, it has some learning curve. And now, for the grand boss of defense, Z counters. Now the magnificent Z counters are, while you are getting hit, you can press up and triangle. And
Square.
Square. Okay, it's a little, it's a little late. So while you're getting hit, you press up and square, and basically the window to do a Z counter is as soon as the punch touches you, but it still hasn't registered yet. It's a couple frames. It's really, really tight. You have to really get a feel for it to actually master it. And remember, you can Z counter every kind of punch, but not key blasts. Any key attack you can Z counter, so don't bother.
Even charged punches.
Even anything that hits you. anything, and it's not a key blast.
One of my favorite things to do is when Vegeta does a combo where he actually goes to land a hard punch with his forehead and just counter the headbutt.
He goes all the way back. And it's
really satisfying.
Okay, so now what you can do to try and get a feel for it is, while you're getting hit, you have to feel your opponent's rhythm and actually reproduce that kind of rhythm, but while trying Z counters. So
what's his controller?
See, I got it. I didn't get the first 2 or 3 punches, but I managed to get the 4th one. And what it does, it teleports behind your opponent, throws him off, and you can actually combo that. Now, if your opponent is strong enough to react to your Z counter, he can also Z counter or dodge. If he dodges, then you go into a little mini game of dodging sequences.
Ki is a very important aspect of the game, and from what we've seen, it will be even more important in Sparking Zero. The way you charge your ki is that there are certain openings in the game where they give you the free time to charge your ki without being in a very disadvantaged position, especially as your opponent has less health and so needs more time to recover. A simple way to charge your ki or pretty much use your ki is when your opponent always gives you a window. For example, as I showed you earlier, if I throw my opponent away and he tries to get up, as he gets up, now I was a little bit late, but if you manage to get it completely right, don't notice that our key bars are charging automatically. This is for the demonstration purposes. They won't do that in game.
Yeah.
So pretty much if you want to use your key, it has to be in a time where your opponent actually doesn't have that much of a window to dodge. For example, in this type of situations, my opponent can simply vanish and dodge the attack, he can't block it or move away from it. And when you charge your keys, that this map doesn't have any terrain, but if there is some terrain, as I spoke to you earlier, you can go behind your terrain and start charging your key, because if your opponent also disrupts you with as little key expenditure as possible, they will need to use key blasts, and key blasts don't very easily break terrain. It takes a lot of hits to break a mountain, a tree, or a building. Some other ways that key works is that some characters get their key differently. For example, androids can't charge their key, but they have some auto generation that goes up to 5 key bars, and then they can charge to go into max power. Some other characters like Gohan charge their ki for some key bars, for example the first, the second, third, fourth key bar, whatever it is automatically, and then if you want to get even more ki, you have to charge by yourself. Some other characters like SSJ3 Goku charge their ki by hitting their opponent, and that pretty much incentivizes you to go hand to hand, and if you want to charge your ki without actually sitting to charge your ki, that's a way to do that. Basically, the way you charge your ki is by either knowing your character's trait, or as I told you earlier, if I combo my opponent, send him away, as he recovers, I can sit here, charge my ki, and as he gets up, I'm already 3 key bars up, close to getting to max power. And as I told you earlier, the less the HP your opponent has, the more open you have to charge your ki. Also, after some supers like dashing, for example from SSJ to Gohan, when you throw your opponent, actually your opponent doesn't have any opportunity to recover. So as you wait for them to go up and fall into the ground and then get up, you have all the time in the world to charge your ki. So
maybe a little too much time.
You can basically go up to 3 to 4 key bars of ki without worrying that your opponent will retaliate.
Yeah, because while you're falling, you can mass to recover.
Yes, and that's pretty useful. When you are equal in ki, I would advise you want to probably follow your opponent and continue comboing them. But if you have a huge ki advantage or ki disadvantage, that's maybe a pretty good opportunity to take a breather, charge your ki, either extend your advantage or close your disadvantage, and then initiate your attack again and try to capitalize on this opportunity. So there are some instances where you lose ki, not only when you throw ki blasts or supers. Some instances like that are when you're hitting your opponent and you vanish, you expend some ki, as you can very well see. Okay. You also lose some ki, as we said, when, for example, your opponent breaks your card.
Not that. You have to use a different direction.
Exactly. Your opponent loses ki when you do a Sonic Sway. As you can see, his ki, he lost one ki bar. Or when you get sacked.
Right.
What it means to get sacked. Not every character is able to sack another one. Okay, we just got demonetized, but pretty much some characters like the androids have or Cell have the special ability of sucking their opponent's life
And ki.
away from them. And even the androids like Dr. Zero and the Android 19 have the ability, as your opponent throws some ki blasts at you, instead of deflecting the ki blasts, throw me some ki blasts please, instead of deflecting them, they can absorb them. And that even works with any type of ki, like supers or even ultimates. So that's a very, very nice little trick they have up their sleeves. You can also, if you are far away from your opponent, I don't know if it's recommended, we don't use it that much, but it's cool to know. You can press L1 and then circle, and you taunt your opponent. And when the taunt ends, he loses some ki. As the more you taunt, the less ki your opponent loses. So it's not something that you want to be using much. Maybe once a match, if you are far away from your opponent, you can catch him off guard, lose some ki. On the other end, if he's charging ki and you taunt, the time that it takes for you to taunt your opponent, he will have recovered the ki.
Yeah.
And of course, in the Budokai 4, transformations cost ki. So if I want to go up to Super Saiyan, I have to use 3 ki bars. In Sparking, it won't require ki for you to transform, so that's only for this mod specifically. And in the BT3 game, it requires skill
Which
points.
is the little blue number.
Yes.
Just left or right to the key bars.
Exactly.
Okay, now for our last section, we will explain the skills. What are skills? Basically, there are some special kind of skills, passive or active, which consume blue meter. What blue meter is that shining blue number,
The
exactly like
points.
that. See how purplish character from 6 went down to 4 because we used his skill. When you activate a passive skill, it usually boosts your stats, and you can view what kind of stats are boosted by the icons below the key bars. So what you can boost is basically offense, your power, your punching power, your momentum, or how fast the character starts to punch or dodge or recover. You can boost your guard, and you can boost your ki or how quickly you gather ki. Apart from passive, there are some active skills. So active skills are either gets you to full power, to max power mode immediately.
What he activated, by the way, is after Demon Strike.
Yeah, which is basically another kind of
Passive skill.
Is it passive? Well, some characters that have after emotes, you have to actually press the button in order for them to activate it. Come here, little kitty. So you basically activate, consume your blue meter, and then when something tries to hit you, you have to press a button and then dodge anywhere you like. So those skills are after emotes and wild sense. After emotes, some characters have a single after emotes or multiple. For example, Krillin has multiple after emotes, while Yamcha has a single after emotes. Now I think...
Punch me, motherfucker! That's wild sense.
That's wild sense. Wild sense, it's always one dodge, but the character goes straight to your opponent's back and hits them. Now that's dodgeable, so if you play with a very experienced player, you can be dodged there. Let's go Super Saiyan, because we have a very cool defensive skill, which is Explosive Wave. So, how you use that is if I'm getting hit in the middle of a rush, I can use Explosive Wave to push my opponent back and deal some little damage.
We've actually had fights that ended due to explosive wave.
For real, they were so close. Okay, and the last kind of active skill is teleportation. Basically, it is instant transmission, where I think Cell has instant transmission, some Gokus have instant transmission, and in this mode also Beerus. Alright, Kid Buu, hit. So what that does is consumes 1 or 2 blue meter, and or not instantly, it has just a little bit of time, and then it teleports back to your opponent.
Distance doesn't matter.
Wherever they are, yeah. They could be at the other end of the map, it doesn't matter.
Pretty much that's the bonus segment where we pretty much tile talk together and tell some things that we usually couldn't fit in the actual guide. For example, when you're playing death matches, you have the ability to change the characters, and there are some pretty fun interactions. For example, if your character is at the backside of the team, he's not active in the map, and they have, let's say for example, they have 2.5 bars that they left the battlefield, the half bar, they will feel it, and they will also be feeling ki as they are at the sidelines. They won't feel more than the bar that they are already occupying, but they can gain some HP, and it's pretty useful if you have low ki, and let's say that your bar, a health bar that you have is like at the last 5% portion of the health, you change with some other character, and you can actually gain a free health bar back, plus some ki. You can also change with a character. For example, let's just imagine for a second that I throw my opponent away. I have no ki, but I throw my opponent away. I can press R3 and L3 at the same time, change to a character, and then chain a super the moment they step in. So that pretty much gives you a free super and a way to capitalize on that. And one last tip, if you want to change the character that you can actually change, just move your R joystick, your right joystick up or down, and the little icon of the character you're about to change will change. So you can, that way you can pick which character you want to change to.
Now, to have the appropriate mindset when you are fighting, you have to remember that you need to be reactive. Like if you go straight to just punches and always trying to punch and stuff like that, you will be very, very, very predictable. So take it a notch down, and actually it is very, very useful to actually sit back, observe your opponent and react to his movement. Now, using the same logic, you can also, when you first are reactive, you can also try and be proactive. Like you can, for example, use your blue meter when you know you will go to a fight and you will need it.
Predictancy counter, for example, sometimes when you have sharp instincts in the game, you can actually feel when your opponent will actually do a certain move, and you can actually try to predict them. That's a little bit risky, but with experienced players that know what they do, sometimes it's actually pretty helpful.
Yeah, now this is how mind games come into play, because there's the first layer of each player acting up, like the one that initiates the offense or the other that reacts defensively, but the dynamics while fighting in those kind of states actively change. So you have to think what the opponent will expect from you and try to do something else which also fits the situation.
Yes, pretty much stay focused, stay sharp, don't lose yourself in the motion of the game. I mean, every button you have to press, you have to already know how you are gonna follow it up. Do you want to continue press square? Do you want to press triangle? What is your logic behind that? Of course, that will come with experience with a game. You can't just simply take that from day one. But try, from the moment you are trying to play the game, either BT3, BT4 or Sparking Zero, try to always be mindful of what you are doing, what your situation is. And one thing that will very quickly let you rise above the rest, above the average player, is to be confident in your abilities and actually being focused. What I mean by focused is be inside the game, let you become in the zone, start noticing stuff. Don't, as we said, fall into the swamp and play the game on autopilot. This way you won't evolve, this way your opponent, if he recognizes that you are in the stage, will completely destroy you, and this way you will be left defenseless to adapt in a given situation.
And also, this is very important for beginners. Do not go into playing by mashing the controller. It's a very, very bad habit and a very tough one to kick later. You have to be mindful of your inputs. This game is very, very precise to what inputs it reads. So, for example, if you are down and you're trying to get up, if you are like pressing all the buttons, your character can do a million different stuff. So you have to be careful and mindful of what buttons you are pressing.
Yes, and sometimes we even fall into the trap of mashing buttons, and that can leave you the famous quote of punch in air. And while you're punching air, your opponent can simply super you in the face and punish you.
Yeah, you can't even dodge it, I think, because it's mid animation. So
yes,
you're basically
course.
defenseless.
You're defenseless.
In that state, yeah.
So yeah, be mindful of that. And now at the cupcake of this whole guide is how do you actually train? And how do you get good at the game? So thankfully we have each other, we have another bro to play with, and that has helped us a lot because you're playing against a human. We will play against other humans at Sparking Zero, and we also have the mindset of always through the fight, see what did I do wrong, what did he do right, try to replicate the things that work, try to cut the things that don't work. Also, another way that you can train is by actually going to the train menu of the game. This will help you get all the basics down, train them until you are consistent at everything. They have beginner, intermediate and advanced. Get all those movements down to the T, and then you can go into the training grounds with a dummy and start opening the skill list and actually trying to do every movement. I mean, you have flying kick, you have heavy finish, you have rolling hammer, you have ki cannon. Those moves you have to learn. First of all, for example, 4 squares. You need to learn when your 4th square actually is. You can't simply leave it to chance. Now that was the 5th, I think, but usually when you are in the state of mind where you're fighting, you won't miss those squares with the experience.
No, just be patient, give it time, and it will really reward you.
Yes, learn the combos in the offensive techniques one at a time. And for example, you see all this continuation of buttons and you say, what the fuck? Relax as you are playing the game. The simplest thing that you can do is that, okay, I've pressed, for example, 3 squares. Let's press a triangle and see what happens. If the triangle, for example, goes into a punch, let's say, okay, let's press another triangle and see what happens. Another square, square, triangle. And slowly, by experimenting after a square, pressing triangle, after triangle, pressing triangle, by doing all the stuff, you will pretty much get the hang of the game. Although there are some very minor key points that you can do that are more specific. For example, after a gut punch, which is... No, that was the wrong button. You see, sometimes you have to remember. After a gut punch... Okay, what am I doing? Wait, because I don't know SSJ Goku mid that well. After a gut punch, you can press up triangle and you get behind your opponent and you do a finisher like that. So some minor combos like that, you have to learn them through the list. But take it slow, give yourself the time to actually learn the game, feel the game, and when you're pressing either against a human or the computer, try to study what worked against you, why it worked, and then find ways to either replicate it or counter it. And the last thing that's left, which we'll leave it at Golden Bro, is to explain momentum.
So momentum, as I previously briefly mentioned, is how quick your character picks up the animation of punches or recoveries, or I think it might apply to dodges too, and guarding also, of course, and charging key. So anything that from the point you press the button to the point that the character starts actually doing the stuff you ordered him to do. And now, apart from knowing what momentum is, you have to keep in mind that it changes. And what I mean by that is that the more you punch your opponent, so the more you find yourself in a state of comboing, doing combos, the quicker your momentum will be. So, as an example, if I try to do a full punch here, nope, I didn't want to do it again, it's fine. So it took some time, okay, but if I do it after punching for some time, so let's do that. Nope, it wasn't instant. See, that was quicker. So the difference might not be that visible, but when you try to do, when for example try and combo and start trying to reach your opponent very fast to initiate a new combo before he recovers, the momentum thing is very, very, very helpful.
Yes, it probably, that's a tip that will affect you at the last stage of your development. When you're starting to play the game and learn the game, these things come actually natural to you. So broskis, with this guide in your hands, I think we've probably laid the groundwork for you to actually become not only good, but gods in this game. Remember, if you need to go back and watch some of the things that you probably feel that you didn't understand very well, feel free to do so. But in essence, that's the core mechanics of the game, that's how the game is played. You can either watch some of our gameplay to get a feel of how you use everything and how you play, but not only watch for your entertainment, watch for your learning. Pretty much, and I think you'll become very, very strong very quickly.
And now is the part where you have to sit your butt down and train.
Yes, fucking train. Play the game, enjoy it, it's beautiful. Give some appreciation to the masterpiece that they created 17 years ago now.
For real.
And when Sparking comes out, we'll be excited to match with you and actually face you in ranked or generally in online multiplayer.
I can't wait.
We will beat your ass so hard, so hard. Yeah! So that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and as always,
Bro smooches.